Welcome to Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate each one of you being here. Before we begin, we'd love to know, which corner of the globe are you watching from? Tell us in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Foundation of Sand. August Knox stood at the window of his lake house, watching the sun set over the water. At 53, he had built everything from nothing. The scrawny kid from Appalachia who'd been told he'd never amount to anything now commanded a small empire of construction and real estate developments across 3 states. His calloused hands were testament to his beginnings, even if they now signed million-dollar contracts. 27 years of marriage to Blythe had given him 2 children and what he thought was stability. Their love story had been typical. She was waiting tables at the diner where he ate breakfast every morning before heading to his first construction job. She'd been beautiful, sharp-tongued, and seemingly impressed by his ambition. They'd married young, had Weston within a year, and Camilla 3 years later. August had worked 18-hour days for a decade, building his business brick by literal brick. Blythe had stayed home with the kids, creating the family life he'd never had growing up with alcoholic parents. At least, that's what he'd believed. "Mr. Knox, your son's on line 1. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. August picked up. "Weston, Dad, just checking if you've booked your flight for the wedding. Mom said you hadn't RSVP'd yet." August's jaw tightened. "I'll be there. Send me the details again." "Will do. And Dad, could you and Mom try to be civil? This is important to me and Stella." "Your mother and I are always civil," August replied, the lie tasting bitter. "I wouldn't miss your wedding for anything." After hanging up, August pulled a leather-bound journal from his desk drawer. Inside were photographs, bank statements, hotel receipts, and transcripts of text messages, all meticulously gathered and organized. The evidence of Blythe's 15-year affair with Harlan Reed, August's former business partner. August had discovered the betrayal 3 years ago, but he hadn't confronted Blythe immediately. Instead, he'd begun planning. August Knox didn't believe in emotional outbursts or hasty actions. He believed in patience, precision, and complete destruction of his enemies. Harlan had once saved August's life on a construction site, becoming his best friend and eventually his business partner. When August caught him embezzling from the company 7 years ago, he'd kept it quiet, made Harlan pay it back, and dissolved the partnership without pressing charges. A mistake he now recognized. Harlan hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen August's wife long before that. August flipped to a page where he'd outlined the steps of what he simply called the reckoning. The final phase would begin at Weston's wedding next month. He closed the journal and poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon. 3 years of groundwork were about to pay off. Blythe and Harlan had no idea what was coming. Chapter 2, The Archive of Betrayal. The first sign of Blythe's betrayal had come from an unexpected source. Lorna Dell, August's longtime secretary, had placed a hotel receipt on his desk one Monday morning 3 years ago. "I think you should see this," she'd said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle. It came in with the company expense reports. The receipt showed a weekend stay at the lakeside resort, charged to a company card that only 2 people had access to, August and Harlan. August hadn't stayed there, which meant Harlan had. But it was the room service charges that caught his attention. 2 of everything, including a bottle of Blythe's favorite champagne. "Thank you, Lorna," he'd said calmly, though his world had already begun to crack. "Please close the door on your way out." That night, he'd driven to the lakeside resort and charmed the night manager, Tully, into reviewing security footage by claiming he was planning a surprise anniversary gift and needed to check the layout. What he saw instead was Blythe and Harlan entering a suite together, her hand possessively on the small of his back. August hadn't confronted them. Instead, he'd driven home, gone to his workshop in the basement, and meticulously crafted a wooden box with intricate joinery, the kind of precision work that had always calmed him. Inside this box, he began collecting evidence. Over the following months, August hired a private investigator, installed monitoring software on their shared devices, and methodically built a timeline of the affair. He discovered it had begun shortly after Camilla was born, when Blythe had felt abandoned by his long work hours. 20 years of lies. 20 years of family vacations, Christmas mornings, and anniversary celebrations, all poisoned. Most devastating was his discovery that Harlan had been the one who'd encouraged Blythe to push for separate finances 10 years earlier, a move that had given her independence, but had actually protected their affair. August had agreed, never suspecting it was his former friend's way of creating a financial pathway for their betrayal. In his investigation, August uncovered something else, a pattern of small financial discrepancies in his business that traced back to Harlan's continued influence. Though no longer partners, Harlan had maintained relationships with several of August's contractors and suppliers, quietly siphoning opportunities and skimming profits through a complex web of handshake deals and kickbacks. The betrayal was comprehensive, personal and professional, emotional and financial. One night, as August sat at his desk reviewing bank statements, Blythe had walked in and placed her hands on his shoulders. "You're working too hard again," she'd murmured, kissing his neck. "Come to bed." August had looked up at her, seeing for the first time the practiced deception in her eyes. How many nights had she left his bed to text Harlan? How many business trips had been covers for their rendezvous? "I'll be up soon," he'd replied, his voice steady despite the rage building inside him. That night, he'd decided. There would be no confrontation, no messy divorce, no public scandal. August Knox would take everything from them, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the knowledge of what they'd lost and why. Chapter 3. Blueprints of Vengeance. "I need something absolutely airtight," August told Zelda Moss, his new attorney. He'd specifically chosen someone with no previous connection to him or his business, someone Blythe and Harlan wouldn't know. Zelda adjusted her glasses and reviewed the documents spread across her desk. "With this evidence, Mr. Knox, you could file for divorce citing adultery and likely receive a favorable settlement. However, Georgia is an equitable distribution state, not a community property state. The court will aim for fair, not necessarily equal, division of assets." August leaned forward. "I don't want fair. I want justice. And I don't want a divorce. Not yet." Zelda raised an eyebrow. "Then what exactly are you planning?" "A complete reset. I want to separate our finances without Blythe realizing what's happening. I want to protect my assets, secure my business, and ensure that when the time comes, she and Harlan get exactly what they deserve, nothing." Over the next 6 months, August restructured his holdings. He established trusts for his children that Blythe couldn't touch. He quietly transferred assets to newly formed LLCs with his sister Marlene as a co-owner. He updated his will, removing Blythe entirely. On paper, August appeared to be simplifying his business affairs as he approached retirement. In reality, he was systematically dismantling the financial foundation of Blythe's future. Simultaneously, August began cultivating relationships with people Harlan had wronged over the years. There was Greta Simmons, whose small flooring company had nearly gone bankrupt after Harlan canceled a major contract without warning. There was Pascal White, a former employee who'd been fired after questioning some of Harlan's accounting practices. And there was Vernon Tate, a rival developer who'd lost a significant project to Harlan through what many suspected were underhanded tactics. August brought them all into his orbit, not through direct confrontation about Harlan, but through business opportunities and genuine assistance. He funded Greta's expansion into eco-friendly materials. He hired Pascal to audit some of his projects. He partnered with Vernon on a community development initiative. Each connection strengthened August's position while isolating Harlan. August also focused on his children. Weston had joined the family business after college, showing a natural talent for architectural design. August mentored him closely, preparing him to eventually take over, but also subtly educating him about business ethics and loyalty. Camilla, now in medical school, received increased financial support and regular calls from her father, something August regretted not doing more often during her childhood. The most challenging part of the plan was maintaining normalcy with Blythe. August forced himself to continue their date nights, to kiss her goodbye in the mornings, to make love to her on occasion, all while imagining the destruction that awaited her. There were moments when he almost broke, when the taste of her lips reminded him of younger, happier days, or when she would laugh at something in a way that momentarily made him forget her betrayal. But then he would remember the hotel receipts, the text messages, the years of lies, and his resolve would harden once more. As Weston's engagement to Stella Russell was announced, August recognized the perfect timeline for his endgame. The wedding would bring everyone together: family, friends, business associates. It would be the ideal stage for the final act of his retribution. "Are you sure you want to do this at your son's wedding?" Zelda had asked when he outlined the timing. It will affect him too. August had stared out the window of her office, watching a construction crew working on a new building across the street. Sometimes you have to tear everything down before you can rebuild properly. Weston deserves to know who his mother really is before he starts his own family. Zelda had shaken her head, but continued preparing the necessary legal documents. Just remember, Mr. Knox, revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but it rarely brings peace. August had smiled thinly. I'm not looking for peace, Ms. Moss. I'm looking for justice. Chapter 4, Eroding Foundations. 6 months before Weston's wedding, August's carefully laid plans began to accelerate. The first domino fell when Harlan Reed's construction company, Reed Developments, unexpectedly lost its financing for the Westlake Mall project, their largest contract to date. August had spent months cultivating a relationship with Sanford Boyle, the primary investor in the project. Over cigars and whiskey at Augusta National, where August had sponsored Sanford's membership, he had casually mentioned concerns about Reed Development's financial stability. He'd shown Sanford evidence of Harlan's past embezzlement, evidence he'd kept hidden for years, framing it as reluctant disclosure from one businessman to another. I hate bringing this up, August had said, feigning discomfort. But if I were putting that kind of money into a project, I'd want to know. Sanford had withdrawn his funding within a week, citing irregularities in due diligence reviews. When Harlan called August in desperation, asking if Knox Construction could step in as a partner to save the project, August had agreed to meet. At Harlan's office, surrounded by architectural models and desperate employees, August had listened patiently to his former friend's pitch. We've worked together before, August. You know my work. This is just a temporary cash flow issue. With your backing, we can save this project and the jobs of 50 people. August had studied Harlan's face, the face that had smiled at him across dinner tables while sleeping with his wife, the face that had stood as best man at Weston's christening, the face that had betrayed every principle of friendship and loyalty. I'll need to see your books first, August had replied reasonably. Complete transparency. The audit August's team conducted revealed exactly what he expected. Harlan's company was over-leveraged, with multiple projects teetering on the edge of failure. The Westlake Mall was just the first casualty. August agreed to save the project under one condition. Reed Developments would become a silent partner, with Knox Construction taking the lead and the majority of the profits. Harlan, desperate to avoid bankruptcy, had no choice but to agree. Simultaneously, August began subtly reshaping Blythe's social landscape. He'd already cultivated relationships with the wives of Harlan's business associates, positioning himself as the devoted husband focused on his family's future. At charity events and community functions, August was generous and engaged, while dropping occasional comments about Harlan's company's struggles. Such a shame about the Westlake project, he'd say with apparent sympathy. I hope Harlan's other investments are more stable. The rumors spread. Invitations to social events became scarcer for Harlan. Business lunches were canceled. The country club membership committee, which included 2 men whose companies August had recently contracted for major projects, began reviewing Harlan's status due to late dues payments. Payments that were late because August had maneuvered to delay payments to Harlan's company. At home, August maintained the facade of a husband focused on his son's upcoming wedding. He agreed to Blythe's suggestions about their contribution to the event, knowing that the money she believed was available would soon be inaccessible. Weston and Stella deserved the best, Blythe had said over dinner, unaware that August had just transferred another significant portion of their joint assets into his protected accounts. I was thinking we could cover the rehearsal dinner at the cloister. The Russells are handling the reception. Whatever makes him happy, August had replied, raising his glass to toast. To our son's future. Blythe had smiled and clinked her glass against his. You've been so agreeable lately. I was worried you'd be difficult about the expenses. August had simply smiled. I've realized what's truly important, Blythe. Family. Legacy. Making sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve. Chapter 5. The Foundation Cracks. 3 months before the wedding, August implemented the next phase of his plan. Using evidence gathered by his private investigator, he scheduled a lunch with Douglas Russell, father of Weston's fiancée Stella, and a prominent federal judge. The Russell family represented old Atlanta money, conservative, traditional, and intensely focused on appearances. Douglas had initially been hesitant about his daughter marrying into what he considered new money, but Weston's Harvard education and apparent inheritance prospects had eventually won him over. "I appreciate you making time, Judge Russell," August said as they settled into a private dining room at the Capitol Grill. "With the wedding approaching, I thought we should discuss a delicate matter." Douglas Russell was a man accustomed to commanding rooms and rendering judgments. His silver hair and penetrating gaze had intimidated countless attorneys in his courtroom. "What's on your mind, August?" August slid a folder across the table. "Information has come to my attention that affects both our families. I wanted you to be aware before the wedding." Inside were photographs of Harlan Reed entering and leaving Blythe's yoga studio over several months, along with time-stamped security footage showing them embracing in the parking lot. There were also printouts of text messages between them, discussing their relationship and future plans. "What am I looking at here?" Douglas asked, though his tightening expression showed he understood perfectly. "My wife has been involved with this man for many years," August said calmly. "I've recently discovered that they've been making plans for after Weston's wedding. Apparently, they believe it's an appropriate time to reveal their relationship." Douglas reviewed the evidence, his judicial temperament giving way to parental concern. "And you're just telling me this now? With the wedding 3 months away?" "I only confirmed my suspicions recently," August lied smoothly. "I haven't confronted Blythe yet. I wanted to speak with you first, out of respect for your family and Stella." "This would devastate Stella if it came out during the wedding," Douglas said. "The scandal would be significant." August nodded gravely. "My concern exactly. Which is why I've developed a proposal to handle this discreetly." The plan August outlined seemed reasonable. He would confront Blythe after the wedding, ensuring the celebration proceeded without drama. In exchange for this consideration, he asked Douglas to use his influence with certain banking connections to accelerate some business matters, specifically, the approval of loans that would allow August to buy out Harlan's interests in their joint ventures, ostensibly to protect both families from scandal. "You're essentially asking me to use my position to help you financially destroy your wife's lover," Douglas summarized. "I'm asking you to help me protect our children from public humiliation while ensuring that those responsible face appropriate consequences," August corrected. "Nothing I'm proposing is illegal, merely expedited." Douglas considered this, then nodded slowly. "I've always believed in family values and personal responsibility. I'll make some calls. But August, this stays between us. Stella and Weston never learn of this conversation." "Agreed," August said, shaking the judge's hand. "Family first." As Douglas left, August ordered another bourbon. The pieces were falling into place. With the judge's connections, the financial vice around Harlan would tighten even further. But more importantly, he'd planted the seed of doubt in Douglas Russell's mind about the wedding. Doubt that would bloom at precisely the right moment. 2 weeks later, Blythe approached August in his home office, agitation evident in her movements. "Have you spoken to Weston lately? Stella's parents are suddenly suggesting they postpone the wedding. Something about renovations at their lake house affecting the rehearsal dinner plans." August looked up from his papers with practiced concern. "That's strange. Did Weston say why the sudden change?" "No, and he seems confused too. I spent an hour on the phone with him trying to calm him down. I'm going to call Diane Russell tomorrow and sort this out." "Don't," August said sharply, then softened his tone. "Let the kids handle this. We shouldn't interfere." Blythe stared at him suspiciously. "Since when do you take a hands-off approach to anything involving the family? Especially something this important?" August stood and embraced his wife, the woman he'd once loved beyond reason, now a stranger wearing familiar skin. "I'm trying to respect Weston's independence. He's not a child anymore." Blythe pulled away slightly. "You've been different lately. Distant 1 minute, overly affectionate the next. Is there something you're not telling me?" August allowed himself a small, genuine smile. "There are many things I haven't told you, Blythe, but now isn't the time." The confusion and flash of fear in her eyes gave him more satisfaction than he'd expected. Chapter 6: The Confrontation. The Russell estate was transformed for Weston and Stella's rehearsal dinner. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the garden terrace, casting a warm glow over tables adorned with white roses and silver candelabras. A string quartet played softly as the two families and their closest friends gathered to celebrate. August arrived alone, having told Blythe he needed to handle an emergency at one of his construction sites. In reality, he'd been finalizing arrangements with Zelda Moss and meeting with the private security team he'd hired for the wedding day. "Dad," Weston called, breaking away from a conversation to embrace his father. At 26, he was the image of August in his younger years, tall, broad-shouldered, with the same determined set to his jaw. "Where's Mom?" "She'll be here soon," Auguste replied, clapping his son on the shoulder. "Some issue with her dress. You know your mother. Everything okay? You seemed tense on the phone earlier." August smiled reassuringly. "Just business matters. Nothing for you to worry about tonight. Where's my future daughter-in-law?" Stella Russell appeared, radiant in a silver cocktail dress, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo. "Mr. Knox, we were beginning to worry." August kissed her cheek. "I wouldn't miss this for the world. You look beautiful, Stella. My son is a lucky man." As the evening progressed, August circulated through the gathering, charming Stella's relatives and engaging Weston's friends with stories of his son's childhood. To anyone watching, he appeared to be the proud father, fully invested in his son's happiness. When Blythe finally arrived, August noted how she scanned the room immediately, not for him or Weston, but for Harlan Reed, who was attending as a family friend and had been seated at a table far from the main family. "Sorry I'm late," Blythe said, kissing August mechanically on the cheek. "Traffic was a nightmare." "Interesting," August murmured. "Considering your yoga studio is 10 minutes from here, and you left over 2 hours ago." Blythe froze momentarily, then recovered with a practiced laugh. "I had to go home first, remember? For my earrings." "Of course," August said, smiling as he guided her toward their table with his hand firmly on the small of her back. "The sapphire ones I gave you for our 20th anniversary. They match your eyes." Blythe touched her ears, where diamond studs, not sapphires, glinted in the candlelight. Her momentary confusion confirmed what August already knew. She'd been with Harlan, not at yoga, not at home retrieving earrings. During dinner, Douglas Russell gave a heartfelt toast to the young couple, his voice catching as he spoke of family legacy and trust. His eyes met August's briefly, a silent acknowledgement of their shared understanding. As coffee and dessert were served, August excused himself and approached Harlan's table. "Can we speak privately?" he asked, his tone pleasant but firm. Harlan followed him to a quiet corner of the garden, anxiety evident in his fidgeting hands. "Is this about the Westlake financing?" "Because I've secured alternative." "It's about Weston's wedding," August interrupted. "I want you to skip it." Harlan blinked in surprise. "What? Why would I?" "Because if you attend," August continued calmly, "I'll be forced to present certain evidence to the Russell family. Evidence that would not only end your relationship with my wife, but would destroy what remains of your reputation and business." The color drained from Harlan's face. "I don't know what you're talking about." August smiled coldly. 20 years, Harlan. 20 years of lying to my face. Sleeping with my wife. Using my friendship to benefit your business. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Harlan glanced around nervously. "August, listen." "No, you listen." August's voice remained low but took on a dangerous edge. "The only reason I haven't destroyed you already is because of my son. His wedding will not be marred by scandal. You will develop a sudden illness tomorrow morning. You will send your regrets and a generous gift. And you will never contact Blythe again. You can't dictate who Blythe. I'm not dictating to Blythe. I'm telling you what will happen if you don't comply. Your choice, old friend." As August turned to leave, Harlan grabbed his arm. "She loves me, August. She has for years. This isn't just some affair." August looked down at Harlan's hand until he removed it. "That makes what you both did worse, not better. The deadline for your decision is midnight. After that, everything I have goes to Douglas Russell and the Atlanta Business Chronicle." Returning to the table, August found Blythe in deep conversation with Diane Russell. He slipped into his seat beside her and placed his hand over hers possessively. "What did I miss?" he asked pleasantly. Blythe withdrew her hand. Diane was just saying how surprised they were by the guest list. Apparently, some distant Russell cousins were uninvited at the last minute to make room for our friends. The slight emphasis on friends confirmed she'd noticed his conversation with Harlan. August merely smiled. Wedding planning is always complicated, as long as the important people are there. Later that night, as they drove home in silence, Blythe finally spoke. "What did you say to Harlan?" He left immediately after your conversation. I reminded him of an important business matter. August replied, eyes on the road. Nothing that need concern you. Don't patronize me, August. We've been married too long for that. August laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Yes, we have. 27 years, to be exact. Though I wonder how many of those years actually meant anything to you. Blythe stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? Get some rest, Blythe. Tomorrow is a big day for our son. Let's not spoil it with conversations that are long overdue. As they pulled into their driveway, August's phone chimed with a text. It was from Harlan. I won't be at the wedding. But this isn't over. August smiled as he pocketed his phone. Phase 1 was complete. Tomorrow would bring the culmination of 3 years of planning, the day of reckoning. Chapter 7. The Wedding Day. The morning of Weston's wedding dawned clear and bright. Perfect weather for the garden ceremony at the Russell estate. August dressed methodically in his tuxedo, checking his appearance in the mirror as Blythe rushed around their bedroom in a flurry of nervous energy. Have you heard from Weston? She asked for the third time. I texted him, but haven't gotten a response. He's probably busy getting ready, August replied calmly. Or perhaps spending a few quiet moments reflecting on his future. Blythe paused in her preparations. You seem unusually philosophical today. Weddings tend to make one contemplative. August adjusted his cufflinks, platinum with small diamonds, a gift from Blythe on their 10th anniversary. Especially when you consider the vows. Honor. Fidelity. Forsaking all others. A flash of discomfort crossed Blythe's face before she turned away to apply her lipstick. We should leave soon. I told Stella I'd help her with some last-minute details. You go ahead, August said. I have a stop to make first. Business that can't wait. Business? On our son's wedding day? Blythe's exasperation was evident. August smiled thinly. Some matters require immediate attention, regardless of the calendar. Don't worry, I won't be late. After Blythe left, August made a series of phone calls, first to Zelda Moss, confirming that all legal documents were in order, then to the private security team he'd hired, and finally to Douglas Russell. Everything is prepared, August assured the judge. Just as we discussed. He arrived at the Russell estate an hour before the ceremony. The grounds were bustling with activity, florists making final adjustments to floral arches, catering staff setting up the reception area, and the wedding planner directing it all with clipboard in hand. August bypassed the activity and headed for the guest house, where Weston was preparing. He found his son standing by the window, already dressed in his tuxedo, staring out at the gathering guests. Dad, Weston said, turning with evident relief. Where have you been? Mom's been looking everywhere for you. I had some matters to attend to. August embraced his son, holding on a moment longer than usual. You look good. Ready for this? Weston nodded, though anxiety shadowed his features. Mostly. There's something weird going on, though. Stella's parents have been acting strange all morning. Her father keeps taking private calls, and her mother barely spoke to Mom when she arrived. Pre-wedding tension, August suggested. Nothing to worry about. And Harlan canceled last night. Sent a text saying he had food poisoning or something. Mom seemed really upset about it. August kept his expression neutral. Unfortunate. But the day isn't about Harlan, is it? It's about you and Stella. Right? Weston agreed, straightening his tie. By the way, there are 2 guys in suits at the entrance checking guest IDs. Stella's dad said they're extra security because of some judge friends attending, but it feels excessive. Better safe than sorry, August said, clapping his son on the shoulder. I should find your mother before the ceremony. Any message for her? Just tell her to stop worrying. Everything's going to be fine. August nodded, knowing just how wrong his son was. He found Blythe in the bridal suite with Stella and her bridesmaids. When she saw him in the doorway, she excused herself and pulled him into the hallway. Where have you been? She hissed. And what's going on with the security at the entrance? The Taylors were practically interrogated. Douglas is being cautious, August replied. Several of his colleagues from the federal bench are attending. Blythe studied his face suspiciously. You're hiding something. And Harlan isn't answering my calls. Perhaps he's actually ill, August suggested mildly. Or perhaps he finally developed a conscience. Either way, we have a wedding to attend. Shall we? As guests filled the rows of white chairs on the lawn, August and Blythe took their places in the front row. The string quartet began playing, signaling the start of the ceremony. Weston took his position under the floral arch, looking nervous but happy as he waited for his bride. The processional began, bridesmaids in soft blue gowns, Stella's young cousin as flower girl, and finally, Stella herself on her father's arm. She was radiant in a classic white gown, her face glowing with happiness as she approached Weston. The ceremony proceeded beautifully, with personal vows that brought tears to many eyes, including Blythe's. August remained composed, his mind on what would come next. After the couple was pronounced husband and wife, guests moved to the reception area for cocktails while the wedding party took photographs. August used this time to confirm with Douglas that everything was in place. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" the judge asked quietly. "There's still time to reconsider." "I've had 3 years to reconsider," August replied. "Today, everyone learns the truth." As the reception began and guests found their seats for dinner, August noted that his and Blythe's table included the Russells and 2 other couples, strategic placement he'd arranged with the wedding planner. Blythe, seated between August and Diane Russell, kept checking her phone discreetly. "Expecting an important call?" August asked, his tone conversational but pointed. Blythe slipped her phone back into her clutch. "Just checking the time. Weston and Stella should be making their entrance soon." After the newlyweds' grand entrance and the first course was served, Douglas Russell stood for his father of the bride toast. He spoke eloquently of marriage as a sacred commitment built on trust and honesty, his eyes occasionally finding August's across the table. As applause followed the toast, August prepared to stand for his own speech when a commotion at the entrance to the reception tent caught everyone's attention. Harlan Reed, looking disheveled and frantic, was arguing with the security guards. "I need to speak to Blythe Knox," he was shouting. "It's urgent." Blythe half rose from her seat, her face pale. August placed a restraining hand on her arm. "Don't," he warned quietly. "Not here. Not now." But it was too late. Harlan had broken past security and was approaching their table, his eyes wild. "Blythe, we need to talk. Now." "He knows." August stood, positioning himself between Harlan and the table. "You weren't invited, Harlan. Leave before you embarrass yourself further." "You're not invited, loser," Blythe hissed, suddenly beside August, her face contorted with anger and fear. "Security. Remove this man." The security team August had hired closed in. One of them spoke quietly into Harlan's ear. "Sir, you need to leave now. Judge Russell has authorized us to detain anyone disrupting the event." Harlan looked from the guards to Blythe, betrayal evident in his expression. "You're letting this happen? After everything we—" "Get out," Blythe snapped, aware of the guests' stares and whispers. August nodded calmly to the security team, who firmly escorted Harlan from the tent. The wedding planner quickly directed the band to begin playing, attempting to restore the festive atmosphere. August looked at his wife, seeing the panic beneath her composed facade. "I believe we need to talk." "Not now," she whispered furiously. "This is Weston's wedding." "Yes, it is," August agreed. "Which is why I waited until now." "Excuse me." He walked away from the table, through the confused guests, and out of the tent. Finding a quiet spot on the terrace, he made a phone call. "Zelda? Execute everything now. Send the emails, file the papers, all of it." Returning to the reception, August found Blythe in deep conversation with Douglas Russell, both looking grim. When she saw August approaching, she grabbed her purse and headed for the exit. August followed her outside, where she was already calling someone, undoubtedly Harlan, her hands shaking. "It's over, Blythe," he said, stopping a few feet away from her. "Check your email." Confusion crossed her face, but something in his tone made her open her email app. There she found a message from Zelda Moss, containing divorce papers, financial statements showing the systematic restructuring of their assets over the past 3 years, and a comprehensive dossier on her affair with Harlan. "What have you done?" she whispered, scrolling through the documents in horror. "What I should have done 3 years ago when I discovered your betrayal," August replied calmly. "I've protected what's mine and ensured you get exactly what you deserve." "You've known for 3 years?" Blythe's voice was barely audible. "You've just been pretending all this time?" "I learned from the best," August said coldly. 20 years of lies taught me a lot about deception." Blythe's phone rang, Harlan calling back. August plucked it from her hand and answered on speaker. "Harlan." Perfect timing. "August." Harlan sounded confused. "Where's Blythe? What the hell is going on?" "I imagine you're receiving some concerning emails as well," August said conversationally. Your partners withdrawing from deals, banks calling in loans, clients canceling contracts. Amazing how quickly things collapse when the right pressure is applied. You can't do this, Harlan sputtered. It's illegal. It's completely legal, August corrected. Every move I've made has been vetted by excellent attorneys. Unlike you, I don't cheat to get what I want. Blythe lunged for the phone. Harlan, don't listen to him. We'll fix this. There's nothing to fix, August interrupted, stepping back. It's done. You both get to start over with nothing, just like I had to when I discovered my life was built on lies. He ended the call as Douglas Russell emerged from the reception tent, followed by Weston, whose face was a mask of confusion and dawning horror. What's happening? Weston demanded. Stella's father just told me, Mom and Harlan. Is it true? Before August could respond, Blythe rushed to her son. Weston, whatever your father told you. I haven't told him anything yet, August said. But I think it's time he knew who his mother really is. As August began to explain, more guests emerged from the tent, drawn by the commotion. Stella appeared, her wedding gown glowing in the evening light, her face stricken as she took in the scene. The wedding is off, Douglas announced loudly, his judicial authority evident in his tone. I apologize for the inconvenience, but circumstances have arisen that make it impossible to continue. What? Stella cried, looking frantically between her father and Weston. Dad, you can't. What did you do? Weston demanded, rounding on his father. This marriage is off because of you. No, August said firmly. This pause, and it is just a pause, not an end, is happening because the truth needs to be addressed before you both begin your life together. He turned to address the gathering crowd, his voice strong and clear. My wife has been carrying on an affair with Harlan Reed for 20 years. I discovered this 3 years ago and have spent that time ensuring that when the truth came out, justice would be served. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Blythe stood frozen, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. I wanted you all to witness this, August continued, not to humiliate my family, but to ensure that the truth is known. I filed for divorce today. I've also submitted evidence to the State Bar Association regarding Harlan Reed's business practices, which I expect will result in significant legal consequences. He turned to Weston and Stella. I'm sorry this affected your day, but marriage should begin with honesty, not deception. Take time to process this, then make your decision with clear eyes. As security began escorting shocked guests toward the exits, August walked away from the chaos he'd created, feeling neither joy nor sadness, only the cold satisfaction of a long-planned mission finally accomplished. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. The week following Weston's interrupted wedding was a whirlwind of legal proceedings, media speculation, and family discord. August retreated to his lake house, fielding calls from his attorneys and ignoring the increasingly desperate messages from Blythe and Weston. On the third day, a knock at his door revealed Camilla, his daughter, who had flown in from Boston, where she was completing her medical residency. You look terrible, she said bluntly, pushing past him with her suitcase. When did you last eat? August smiled faintly at her directness, so like his own. I'm fine. You're not fine. None of us are fine. Camilla headed for the kitchen and began opening cupboards. I talked to Weston this morning. He's staying with Stella at her apartment. The Russells have postponed the wedding, not canceled it. Good, August said, following her. That wasn't my intention. Camilla turned to face him, her expression serious. What exactly was your intention, Dad? To destroy our family? Because mission accomplished. August sighed heavily, suddenly feeling every year of his age. Sit down, Camilla. It's time you knew everything. Over the next 2 hours, August showed his daughter the evidence he'd gathered, the timeline of Blythe and Harlan's affair, the financial manipulations, the systematic betrayal that had spanned most of Camilla's life. So Mom's been cheating since I was 3? Camilla asked, her medical training evident in her analytical approach to the shocking information. And you've known for 3 years, but said nothing? I wanted to be certain of every fact before acting, August explained. And I needed to ensure that you and Weston were protected, financially and emotionally. Camilla shook her head. But the wedding? That was cruel, Dad. To Weston, to Stella, to everyone. Perhaps, August acknowledged. But it was also effective. A clean, public break that left no room for Blythe or Harlan to spin the narrative. You sound like you're discussing a business strategy, not your marriage. When someone treats a relationship like a transaction, they shouldn't be surprised when it ends like one. Camilla studied her father's face. You really loved her, didn't you? Even after everything. August looked away, unwilling to let his daughter see the depth of pain he still carried. I loved who I thought she was. The next day, Zelda Moss arrived with updates on the legal proceedings. Blythe had retained counsel and was contesting the divorce terms, arguing that August's methodical asset restructuring constituted fraud. She won't win, Zelda assured him. Your actions were preventative and protective, not retaliatory. The evidence of her long-term infidelity strengthens our position considerably. And Harlan? August asked, facing multiple investigations. The evidence you provided to the state licensing board about his business practices has triggered audits of his current projects. Several clients have already terminated their contracts. August nodded, satisfied. What about Weston and Stella? Judge Russell called this morning, Zelda said. He wants to meet. Apparently, Weston and Stella are still determined to marry, but they want certain assurances from both families. The meeting took place at Zelda's office 2 days later. Douglas and Diane Russell arrived first, followed shortly by Weston and Stella, who entered holding hands, their united front obvious. Blythe arrived last, alone and visibly exhausted. Thank you all for coming, Zelda began formally. We're here at the request of Weston Mercer and Stella Russell to discuss the path forward regarding their wedding and family relations. Weston stood, his resemblance to August striking as he addressed the room with calm authority. Stella and I have decided to proceed with our wedding next month. It will be a small ceremony with only close friends present. Blythe made a small sound of distress. Weston, surely we can reschedule the original. No, Mom. Weston cut her off firmly. The wedding we planned was tainted by lies and manipulation from all sides. He looked pointedly at both August and Blythe. We're starting fresh, on our terms. And what are those terms? Douglas asked, his judicial demeanor firmly in place. Stella spoke up, her voice steady despite the tension. First, we want no contact between our families until after the wedding. Second, we expect all legal and financial matters to be handled discreetly, away from media attention. That may be difficult, Blythe interjected. Your father's public spectacle was the result of your actions, not his. Weston interrupted again. I've seen the evidence, Mom. 20 years. My entire life. Blythe's face crumpled. Weston, please. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, he said coldly. You betrayed our family. You lied to all of us. And now you're upset because you got caught. August remained silent, watching his son stand firm against Blythe's attempts at manipulation with a mixture of pride and regret. This was the man he'd raised, strong, principled, but now carrying wounds that might never fully heal. The third condition, Stella continued when the tension had ebbed slightly, is that both families contribute equally to our new wedding plans and respect our decisions without interference. August finally spoke. You have my word. Whatever you need, it's yours. Douglas Russell nodded in agreement. The same from us. All eyes turned to Blythe, who hesitated before responding. Of course. I just want you to be happy, Weston. The meeting concluded with formal handshakes and stilted goodbyes. As they left the building, August found himself walking beside Douglas Russell. Your son is an impressive young man, Douglas said. Stella could have chosen worse. High praise, August replied with a faint smile. For what it's worth, I regret the public nature of what happened. Stella deserved better. Douglas shrugged. Perhaps, but I've spent 30 years on the bench watching people lie to each other and to themselves. Sometimes the truth needs to be dramatic to be effective. They parted with a new understanding, not friendship, exactly, but mutual respect forged in difficult circumstances. That evening, August received an unexpected visitor at the lake house. Harlan Reed stood on his doorstep, looking haggard and desperate. 5 minutes, Harlan said before August could close the door. That's all I'm asking. Against his better judgment, August allowed him inside. Say what you came to say. Harlan paced the living room, running his hands through his disheveled hair. You've won, okay? You've destroyed my business, my reputation, everything I built. But this vendetta against Blythe, it needs to stop. August laughed humorlessly. Vendetta? I'm merely ensuring she experiences the consequences of her actions, just as you are. She's losing everything. The house, her standing in the community, her relationship with Weston. All things she should have considered before spending 20 years lying to my face. August interrupted coldly. Why are you really here, Harlan? Your concern for Blythe seems suspiciously recent. Harlan stopped pacing and faced August directly. She's pregnant. The words hung in the air between them, a final betrayal August hadn't anticipated. She's 51, August said flatly, and we haven't been intimate in months. It's mine, Harlan confirmed unnecessarily. She's 3 months along. We were going to tell everyone after Weston's wedding. Start fresh. August felt a strange calm descend over him. And you think this changes anything? That I'll suddenly feel sympathy? I think you're a decent man underneath all this, Harlan said desperately. We were friends once. The best of friends. What happened between Blythe and me, it wasn't planned. We never meant to hurt you. And yet you did. For 20 years. August walked to the door and opened it. Congratulations on your impending fatherhood. Now get out of my house. After Harlan left, August poured himself a bourbon and sat on the deck overlooking the lake. The news should have devastated him, should have reopened wounds barely beginning to heal. Instead, he felt oddly liberated, as if the last thread connecting him to his old life had finally been severed. He called Weston the next morning. There's something you should know. Your mother is pregnant. Harlan is the father. Silence filled the line before Weston responded, his voice tight with emotion. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve the truth. All of it. No matter how painful. And what am I supposed to do with this information? Weston demanded. August considered his answer carefully. Whatever you feel is right. I've made my choices. Now you make yours. More silence, then. Is this ever going to end? The revelations, the drama, the family secrets. It ends when we decide it ends, August said simply. When we choose to move forward rather than remain trapped in the past. Is that what you're doing? Moving forward. August looked out at the lake, watching the morning light dance across the water. I'm trying to. One day at a time. Chapter 9, The New Foundation. 6 months after the wedding that wasn't, August sat in the small chapel of Stella's family's country church, watching his son exchange vows with the woman he loved. The ceremony was intimate, fewer than 30 guests, no elaborate decorations, no media presence. Just two people committing their lives to each other with clear eyes and honest hearts. Camilla sat beside him in the pew, occasionally squeezing his hand during particularly moving moments. Blythe was noticeably absent, having decided, or been convinced, that her presence would be too disruptive. She was showing now, her pregnancy advancing as her divorce proceedings dragged on, her relationship with Harlan reportedly strained by financial pressures and public scrutiny. August felt no satisfaction in their struggles. The initial rush of vengeance had faded, leaving behind a more complex emotion. Not forgiveness, certainly, but perhaps acceptance of what could not be changed. After the ceremony, the small reception was held at Douglas and Diane Russell's townhouse. August found himself drawn into conversation with Stella's grandfather, a retired business magnate with sharp eyes and sharper insights. Nasty business. What happened with your wife? The old man said bluntly. But you handled it with a certain elegance. I'll give you that. August raised an eyebrow. Most people wouldn't call what I did elegant. Most people are fools, the old man replied, sipping his scotch. You waited, you planned, you executed. No messy emotional outbursts, no half measures. Reminds me of how I dealt with my first wife's indiscretions back in '69. Before August could respond, Weston approached, now wearing a more casual suit for the reception. Dad, can we talk privately? They stepped onto the balcony overlooking the garden, the evening air warm with early summer. Stella and I are moving to Chicago, Weston said without preamble. I've been offered a position with an architectural firm there. We're leaving next week. August nodded slowly. It's a good opportunity. And perhaps some distance from Atlanta would be healthy right now. That's part of it, Weston admitted. But mainly, it's about starting fresh. Building our own life away from everything that's happened. I understand. August placed a hand on his son's shoulder. I'm proud of you, Weston. For your resilience, your clarity. You're a better man than I ever was. Weston shook his head. I don't know about that. But I'm trying to learn from both your strengths and your mistakes. The best any father can hope for, August said with a faint smile. Mom called yesterday. Weston continued after a pause. She wants to reconcile, wants me to understand her side of things. And do you want to understand? Weston leaned against the balcony railing, considering. Maybe someday, but not now. I told her I need time. Time is the one thing we can never get back, August observed. Use yours wisely. What about you, Dad? What's next? You've sold the company, liquidated most of your holdings. Camilla says you're practically living as a hermit at the lake house. August shrugged. I'm contemplating my next chapter. There's a certain freedom in starting over at my age. Later that evening, as the reception wound down, August found himself face-to-face with Douglas Russell near the bar. Your son and my daughter appear to be happy, Douglas observed, gesturing to where Weston and Stella were dancing slowly in the center of the room, oblivious to the few remaining guests. Against considerable odds, August agreed. I received an interesting call from Harlan Reed last week, Douglas continued, lowering his voice. Apparently, he's considering bankruptcy. Wanted to know if I had any judicial contacts who might be sympathetic to his situation. August's expression remained neutral. And what did you tell him? That the law is the law, regardless of personal circumstances. Douglas studied August's face. You're not done with him, are you? With either of them. I've done what needed to be done, August replied carefully. Douglas nodded, unconvinced. Just remember, your vendetta affected more than just its intended targets. Don't sacrifice what remains of your family for the satisfaction of complete destruction. The warning lingered in August's mind as he drove back to the lake house that night. He'd achieved most of what he'd set out to do. Blythe and Harlan had lost their reputations, their financial security, their carefully constructed facades. The truth was known. Justice, as he defined it, had been served. Yet something remained unfinished. 3 days later, August visited Zelda Moss's office to sign the final divorce papers. Blythe would receive the minimum required by law. Enough to live modestly, but nothing close to the lifestyle she'd enjoyed as his wife. Her attempts to contest the asset restructuring had failed, her attorneys unable to prove malicious intent rather than prudent business planning. Is she signing today as well? August asked as he reviewed the documents. Zelda shook her head. Tomorrow. Her attorney requested separate appointments to avoid conflict. Sensible, August acknowledged, signing his name with the finality of a death certificate. After leaving Zelda's office, August drove to the address he'd memorized from his private investigator's reports, the small apartment where Blythe now lived with Harlan. He sat in his car across the street, watching the entrance, not entirely sure why he'd come or what he hoped to accomplish. When Blythe emerged alone, shopping bags in hand, August was struck by how tired she looked, her movements lacking their usual grace, her face drawn with stress or illness or both. The pregnancy was evident now, her floral maternity dress doing little to disguise her condition. He could have driven away unnoticed. Instead, he got out of the car and called her name. Blythe froze, then slowly turned to face him, wariness and resignation in her posture. August, have you come to gloat? No, he said simply, approaching but maintaining a respectful distance. I came to return this. He held out a small velvet box. Inside was her grandmother's sapphire ring, the one she'd worn throughout their marriage until he'd claimed it back during the initial separation. Why? She asked, not reaching for it. You've taken everything else. Why give this back now? Because it was never mine to take, August replied. It was your grandmother's, then yours. Family history shouldn't be collateral damage in our war. Blythe took the box reluctantly, as if expecting a trick. I don't understand you, August. I never did. Even after 27 years. Understanding was never our problem, he said quietly. Honesty was. They stood in uncomfortable silence until Blythe spoke again. I'm signing the papers tomorrow. It'll be final then. August nodded. I know. Weston called after the wedding. He and Stella are moving to Chicago. Also knew that. Blythe looked down at the ring box in her hand. Did you ever love me, August? Really love me? Not just the idea of me or the family we created? The question caught him off guard. Not its content, but its rawness, its humble directness so unlike the Blythe he'd known. Yes, he answered honestly. I loved you completely. Until I didn't. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. I loved you too. Even during everything else. It was complicated, messy, wrong, but never non-existent. August felt a strange twinge, not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but perhaps the first faint echo of closure. I hope you find happiness, Blythe. Not because you deserve it, but because bitterness is a poison I wouldn't wish on anyone. Even Harlan? She asked with a ghost of her old sharp wit. Even Harlan, August confirmed, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. As he turned to leave, Blythe called after him. August, was it worth it? The planning, the waiting, the destruction, did it give you what you needed? August paused, considering the question with the honesty it deserved. I don't know yet. Ask me in another 20 years. He drove back to the lake house as sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The divorce would be final tomorrow. Weston and Stella would build their new life in Chicago. Camilla would return to her medical career in Boston. Blythe and Harlan would welcome their child into a world of limited resources and lingering scandal. And August would continue forward, neither triumphant nor defeated, but irrevocably changed by the path he'd chosen. That evening, he built a fire in the pit on his dock and systematically burned the contents of the wooden box that had housed his evidence and plans for the past 3 years. Photos, bank statements, private investigator reports, hotel receipts, all reduced to ash and scattered over the dark water. The journal containing The Reckoning he kept, placing it on a shelf in his study alongside family photo albums and business memorabilia. Another chapter in the story of his life, neither hidden nor celebrated. 3 weeks later, August finalized the purchase of a small construction company in Seattle, a city where he knew no one and no one knew him. A place to build something new from the ground up, using the skills and determination that had defined his life before betrayal had redefined it. Before leaving Atlanta, he visited Weston and Stella to say goodbye. Their apartment was half-packed, boxes labeled for their own fresh start in Chicago. Seattle? Weston repeated when August told him his plans. That's about as far from Atlanta as you can get without leaving the continental U.S. That's part of the appeal, August admitted. New horizons, new challenges. Are you running away? Stella asked gently, her perceptiveness reminding August why his son had chosen her. Not running away, August corrected. Moving forward. There's a difference. As they said their goodbyes, Weston embraced his father with unexpected fierceness. I was angry for a long time, he said quietly. About what happened at the wedding, about how everything unfolded. But I understand why you did it. Do you forgive me? August asked, suddenly needing to know. Weston stepped back, his expression serious. For exposing the truth? Yes. For how you did it. I'm working on it. It was enough, more than August had expected, more perhaps than he deserved. His final stop before leaving was the cemetery where his parents were buried. He hadn't visited in years, had actively avoided the memories of his turbulent childhood. Now he stood between their simple headstones, reflecting on the legacy of pain and resilience they'd passed to him. I'm not sure you'd be proud of what I've done, he told the silent stones. But I think you'd understand it. As he turned to leave, his phone rang, Camilla calling from Boston. Just checking if you've left yet, she said when he answered. And to tell you I've requested a transfer for my final year of residency. University of Washington. Seattle has excellent hospitals. August paused, emotion catching him by surprise. Camilla, you don't have to. I know I don't have to, she interrupted firmly. I want to. Family sticks together, Dad. Even when it's messy. Even when it hurts. Even when one member systematically destroys the others, he asked wryly. Especially then, Camilla replied, her tone softening. Someone needs to keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't go full supervillain in your new city. August laughed, a genuine laugh, perhaps his first in 3 years. I make no promises. The next morning, he locked the lake house, loaded his few essential possessions into his car, and began the long drive west. No goodbyes to Blythe, no final confrontation with Harlan, no dramatic declarations or last-minute reconciliations. Just a man moving forward, carrying his wounds and his victories, his regrets and his resolve, building a new foundation 1 mile at a time. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.